Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can listen to on the Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Anyway, Drew and I are recording this week's show on Friday, August 4th, 2023. And Drew, you were the one who suggested this as we were putting together tonight's show. But folks, we lost a giant this week. And again, it's kind of ironic to use the word giant since most of us know this guy simply as Pee-wee. But Paul Reubens, the very talented veteran of the Groundlings, in fact, his Pee-wee Herman character was birthed at that improv comedy troupe, passed away this past Sunday, July 30th, at the age of 70, after a 6-year battle with cancer. And Drew, I saw what you tweeted out on Sunday Night Monday, and obviously this is a guy who meant a lot to you when you were growing up, right?
Yeah, and continued to mean a lot. I mean, I don't know if you saw his Broadway show when that came back, but it was just,
I missed it in both L.A. You're killing me. Well, the thing, have you ever seen, and I want to say it was for Showtime, they taped this was ahead of the Pee-wee Saturday morning show, but they taped the Groundling show. For example, it's Phil Hartman. I mean, again, a fellow Groundling member as Captain Carl.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's wonderful. And that's the thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. It started in L.A. and then moved to Broadway in, what was that, 2003, 2004?
Somewhere around there. It might have been a little later, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was... They recorded it for, I think, HBO, but it was just the best. It was just so great. 2011, Jim. So
2011.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. And we'll talk about Paul later in the show. But yeah.
Yeah, well, the second half of today's show. But first, folks, the news. And as is nowadays, the news portion of today's show is brought to you by our new sponsor, Touring Plan's own travel agency. Those obviously knowledgeable folks can now help you book your very next trip to Walt Disney World, plus toss in a subscription to Touring Plans for free. So if you're headed to Florida anytime soon, please check them out at touringplans.com/travel. Okay, folks, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Drew and I are recording this week's show on Friday, August 4th, and 24 years ago this week, Drew, Brad Bird's Iron Giant debuted in 2,179 theaters around North America. And unfortunately, not all that many people turned out. In fact, I distinctly remember going to this thing at the AMC Kingsborough Theater here up in New Hampshire. Nancy and I went opening night. I want to say we went to the 7 o'clock screening, and there were 4 of us in the theater. Now, mind you, when it was over, the two couples stood up and walked toward each other and just blithered about, wasn't that amazing? Wasn't that a great movie? Why aren't more people here? And, long story short, there weren't a whole lot of people in any theaters around the country. The opening weekend, this Warner Brothers animation film only made $5.5 million, and over its entire 6-week-long run in North American theaters, only sold $23 million worth of tickets. And now jump ahead nearly a quarter century, and this Brad Bird film is recognized as an animation masterpiece. And again, forgive me, I'm bringing this up because we're now 5.5 weeks. It's been 5.5 weeks since Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, was first released to theaters. And to date, this Kirk D'Amico film has only made $15 million domestic, $24 million overseas, worldwide gross of a total of $40 million. And what I found fascinating, Drew, is drilling down into this early today. when Iron Giant was produced in the late 90s, it had a budget of $70 million. And what's interesting is that Ruby Crackett, we jump ahead again, almost a quarter century, Ruby Gillman also only had a budget of 70 million. But it has a really great look, and it's funny and loose, but at the same time, it's also a very, very different media landscape right now. I mean, for example, just 3 weeks after Gilman debuted in theaters, this Kirk D'Amico movie was available digital HD and on Amazon Video and over on iTunes. And while it is not officially confirmed, the Blu-ray of Teenage Kraken is supposed to hit store shelves later this month on August 15th. And I bring this up tonight, folks, because as Drew has mentioned on earlier shows, it's Guillermo del Toro who said that, what is it, buying physical media these days is a moral imperative. Is that right, Drew?
That's it. But you found the actual quote, so you're
okay. You want to share?
Share that with us. You share it with us. You
first.
You found it.
Okay. This is what Guillermo tweeted out back in May. Physical copies in the age of streaming are a moral Fahrenheit 451 level duty, which I love how wonky he got there. But anyway, look, folks, if you could do Guillermo and Kirk a favor, head over to Amazon or your favorite online retailer and buy an advanced copy of Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Mind you, I'm not saying it's going to be the next Iron Giant, but tell you what, in 24 years, we'll circle back here. I'll be 88 then, and we'll see. Okay. Anyway, moving on to the other news of the day. Now, Drew, you were at Annecy back in June, and when we were pre-gaming, I asked you about the Inventor, and I guess it was shown as a work in progress there, right?
Yes. It was shown there. I was so scrambled just trying to get through my days. I did not even know that. But you know who told me to watch it? Like right as I was going to Annecy was that Bob Peterson said, make sure you watch The Inventor because it was obviously done by an ex-Pixar guy.
Yeah.
And I would love to see it. I still need to see it. But it's Jim Capobianco, who, if you are an animation fan, you know his work. You know, he worked on everything from, he worked on the animated sequence for Mary Poppins Returns, which we love. He was a writer on Ratatouille. He worked on Lion King. He worked on Finding Dory, Inside Out, Monsters, Inc., Dinosaur, Fantasia 2000. Yeah. I mean, this guy's a legend, and he had a short film a few years ago that was also about Da Vinci. But
did
now,
he really?
Yes, this is sort of an expansion on that short. But I've heard it's wonderful. It's got a great voice cast. I promised to watch it, Jim. Now I sound like you when I... Okay.
Yeah. Hey, there we go. I was about to say, hey, you're working my side of the street here. All right, you talk about films you haven't seen yet. But yeah, as Drew just mentioned, this is a new stop-motion puppet and 2D hand-drawn anime feature that follows Leonardo da Vinci after he leaves Italy for France. And it's basically the waning days of Da Vinci's life. And so he's now in the French court. And what's fascinating to me is sort of him ruefully looking back over his life and trying to figure out, more to the point, what's the actual meaning of life. And I have to admit, my other reason for, talking about this today, because again, it's going to be released here in the States. In fact, Blue Fox Entertainment, after it was shown at Annecy back in June, acquired the stateside distribution rights. It's going to be released to theaters August 25th of this year. But I was kind of intrigued to see Don Hahn was an executive producer on this thing. But I guess given that Don also worked on Lion King, it kind of makes sense that he and Jim would be connected on this thing. So anyway, put that on your calendar, folks. Now, mind you, you may need to go to the Inventor website to find a theater near you. Doesn't seem to be a huge distribution thing that's going on. But again, the Inventor, August 25th. And since we are now talking about new stop-motion puppet movies, I guess we should also talk about old stop-motion puppet movies. And Drew, have you ever seen the Puppetoon movie? I mean, this was initially released to theaters in 87. And again, because I'm old, I did actually see it in a really for real theater. But it was released on Blu-ray, I want to say back in 2013. Did you catch it then? Or?
No, I never have seen this.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a celebration of the stop-motion shorts that sci-fi and fantasy film pioneer George Pal. I mean, you probably know him for the original War of the Worlds film from the 50s. Anyway, prior to that, he was doing these Puppetoon films for Paramount. And what's interesting is Arnold Leibovitz put together this wonderful film back in 87 that celebrated these shorts. And when it came out on Blu-ray in 2013, there was such a strong reaction that Arnold thought, well, I'll go back into the vault and crank out another copy. And so we got Puppetoon's Movie Volume 2 in December of 2020, which also got an enthusiastic response from animation fans. So Arnold decided, hey, one more time. So now we are getting Puppetoon Movie Volume 3, which becomes available September 1st of this year. In fact, if you want to order an advance copy, you can do so by going over to puppetoon.net. Now, that said, I feel like we I don't know if the proper phrase here is trigger warning, but I feel like we should put a tiny little warning out there. I mean, you got to remember that George Pal made his Puppetoons back in the 30s and the 40s. And this was back during a time when people had interesting ideas about what was entertaining. You could really lean into some racial stereotypes back then in mainstream media. Don't get me wrong, in this collection, there are things like 1946's Together in the Weather, which features two characters called Punchy and Judy, which, Drew, I think you'll be fascinated by this. This is Freddie Moore stepping away from Disney, where he was famous for designing appealing characters, like, hugely appealing characters like Jiminy Cricket and the Seven Dwarfs and the like. So he was working with Pal on this show. But on the other hand, in this same collection, you're going to find potentially offensive films like 1945's Hot Lip Jasper and 1946's Jasper's Derby, which, again, just really lean into the racial stereotypes of this era. So seriously, folks, know that going in. And I think you kind of have to approach this as an animation fan and try to appreciate the genuine artistry of George Pal and what he does in stop motion, while also trying to overlook some incredibly out-of-date, really aging poorly depictions of African Americans. All right. Totally changing the subject here. Drew, as we were pre-gaming the show, you came up with some animation-related news items you wanted to talk up, and the first on the pile here is Snoopy Presents One-of-a-Kind Marcy. We got a trailer for that this week, right?
Yeah, did you watch the trailer? Or did you just see I mentioned the trailer?
What was interesting is before you sent me the link, I had seen, I mean, again, I'm a longtime Peanuts fan. So this is a school election? What is the gimmick of the storyline here?
Yeah, I don't really know what the storyline was. I just think that the animation for these new Peanuts things are pretty
they're amazing. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
It feels very much like the Bill Melendez stuff, the actual animation, but I think the step up in quality when it comes to the backgrounds and that sort of thing, it really has brought these things that we love from the 60s and the 70s into the 2020s. I mean, it looks great.
Yeah, I have no idea if anyone's watching any of these, but, Apple keeps putting them out, so I don't know.
Yeah. All right. And speaking of things that will be coming out soon, we have our Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We were just talking about the Blu-ray of Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, but this is the Sony Pictures animation, the huge hit.
Yes.
When is it coming out?
So the digital version will be out on Tuesday, the day that this episode comes out, and then the Blu-ray, 4K, etc. will be out September 5th. So will you be able to wait for the Blu-ray, or will you just have to buy the digital version because you are so enamored with it? But
well, again, I'm sorry. I'm firmly siding with Guillermo. A moral imperative, got to buy the physical media, which Nancy, again, keeps pointing out. I buy them and don't watch them, but I have them.
You have them if you need them. And it looks like this one will have a lot of really great special features. So,
okay.
It's a great film. It's a great film.
Yeah. All right. Moving on now, you had also brought up the topic of Disenchanted?
Yes, I think you're the only one that watched all of Disenchanted, but it's finally coming to an end, Jim. I mean...
dang. Am
I wrong?
No, I guess what's intriguing to me is, face it, just in the same window of time, we had Futurama come back, and this was very much Futurama taking on Sword and Sorcery, the Lord of the Rings, that sort of thing. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, it never quite coalesced into something that was as pleasing as Futurama. There's some wonderful characters. The king and the little devil character, but yeah, oh God, the elf.
Yes.
So this is it, officially. It heads into the sunset now, right?
Yes, the last episodes, which they're calling Part 5. I don't know if that's Season 5 or I don't know what, but that'll be out on September 1st on Netflix, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. I will make the time. Every so often, they'd have a wonderful episode. All right. And then finally, our friend at G-Kids, who, again, want to remind you, they're the ones who are bringing us The Boy and the Heron come December. Before that, what have they got coming now, Drew?
Well, they put out the Neon Genesis Evangelion box set, I think last year or the year before. That was so great. And now they are putting out Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.01 Thrice Upon a Time, which was the final movie in the Evangelion Rebuild series. And it'll be available on a standard Blu-ray, a digital download, and a deluxe 4K box set that has all the goodies that you could possibly want. I'm very deep into the Evangelion Rebuild movies right now, so I'm so excited that this is coming out. And Jim, if you've never seen it, Neon Genesis Evangelion, it's very much worth your while. I'm sure Alice has seen it at the very least.
No, that's it exactly. I'm enthusiastic by proxy. She talks about this all the time. So, wow, that is quite the title, though.
Yes, it is a complete marble mouth title, but whatever.
Well, I feel like I should write that on a whiteboard and then determine what the actual total is.
Yes.
So, all right. Okay. Anyway, folks, that completes the news portion of this week's show. And when Drew and I get back, we will look back fondly on the career of Paul Reubens.
Hey, the vibes are slipping. I think it's time to bring out the Velveeta shells and G's. The holidays are a time to go all in on indulgence. Headline your meals with the rich, creamy meltiness of Velveeta shells and cheese and satisfy your holiday cravings like no other. Bring that main course energy to your side dish. Celebrate extra with Velveeta these holidays.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. One order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
And we're back. Okay, I don't know entirely where to start here. I mean, the thing about Paul Reubens is when you think about all the people he worked with and all the careers he touched, there's a wonderful story that Tim Burton shared just this week. Because remember, Tim Burton's first feature film to be released theatrically was Pee-wee's Big Adventure back in July of 1985. And what Burton shared is that, remember, he was a guy who had worked in animation at Disney on special projects. We got the Vincent stop-motion thing, and then we got his live-action Frankenweenie, the featurette in December of 84. And
don't forget his Hansel and Gretel. That was so bizarre that it only aired once on the Disney Channel on Halloween 1 year, and that was it.
In fact, the only time I got to see any of that, remember, was it Lackamaa that had the Burton exhibit, or was that?
Yeah, it might have been at Lackamaa. I saw it at the Met, or no, we're not at the Met.
There we go.
Yeah, it was at the Met. That's right. Yeah. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time as the Marina Abramovich thing where she stared at people. It was like it was the most people I had ever seen in there at the same time. But yeah, anyway.
Wow. Yeah, no, but yes, as part of the Burton exhibit, and I think you're right. I may have seen it in New York at the Met. That was the only place I got. They had a monitor that ran like a 5-minute long clip from it, and yeah, a very Japanese reimagining of the story of Hansel and Gretel, which alone was worth the price of admission. But anyway, Tim told the story on social media this week about how he got the gig to direct Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And evidently, Paul had watched the live-action Frankenweenie and noticed the wallpaper in the background of one of the scenes and thought, the guy who picked that out will get what I'm trying to do with the Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And, they met and they agreed to collaborate, and then we got that wonderful film, which, by the way, did you see where the Cabazon dinosaurs are now paying tribute to Pee-wee?
Yes, I thought that was very cute. I'm usually pretty annoyed when they paint those dinosaurs, but I thought it was a great, loving tribute to Paul.
Yeah. Well, all right. If you remember the scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where Pee-wee stops at that famous roadside attraction where you have the giant concrete apatosaur and you have the giant concrete T-Rex. What they've done there is they've actually painted the T-Rex this week so it looks like it's wearing Pee-wee's trademark gray suit. And again, just a fun idea. But anyway, Drew, you wanted to point out today, I mean, people, of course, we mentioned at the top of the show, the amazing Broadway version of the Pee-wee show, and I talked about the Showtime special, and of course, his live action theatrical film. But you wanted to talk about kind of a lesser celebrated aspect of Paul Reubens' career, and that's a lot of his voice work for animation, right?
Yeah, not only that, but the original Pee-wee's Playhouse was a wonderful celebration of animation. And not only animation, but every kind of, style of animation. There were old, 30s and 40s black and white cartoons that he would show.
There were. I was about to mention the penny claymation.
The penny claymation, or the little dinosaurs that lived in the house. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. It was such a lovely celebration of animation and puppetry and all of these kind of things that he loved. But yeah, he did do some really amazing voice work. Obviously, Disney fans know him as Captain Rex and DJ Rex on Star Tours. But he got that gig. According to our friend Mark Eads, after Mark saw him as the voice of the spaceship in Flight of the Navigator, which is another great performance.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Though I think it's also worth noting here that wasn't the original voice, didn't they bring in Billy Barty? And everybody agreed that listening to I guess Billy was pretending to be a salty old sea captain or something like that. And everybody was like, no, this isn't going to work. Let's get somebody else. But, and what I love about that is he got both of those gigs before Pee-wee really broke through.
Yeah.
the very first thing that Michael J. Fox appeared in.
Oh, Midnight Madness? Yeah, he is in Midnight Madness, which was a Disney movie. Yeah.
No, that's it. That's why I was bringing it up, because it was Disney's attempt at doing, kind of an Animal House, because isn't Stephen Furst in that thing as well?
It was sort of Animal House / Porky's, but PG, so neither. It did not translate.
Oh,
yeah.
No, but in the middle of it, there's a fight at an arcade, and in the middle of the scene is Pee-wee in like a cowboy outfit, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, again, what I love is that he was on Disney's radar, and more to the point, he got both of these voice gigs, Flight of the Navigator, and again, doing the voice of Rex for Star Tours before Pee-wee broke, in a big way.
Yeah, I think Mark tells the story of calling him on the set, so that he was in production, but he hadn't. I don't think the episodes had come out yet. But he brought such a lovely innocence to Rex that, it's my first time. It's like, yeah.
I have to admit, the way that attraction began, I understand it's your first line. Well, it's mine too. From there, it's the right voice, it's the right tone. And more to the point, when you listen to the attraction now, hear Rex screaming, it is very much Pee-wee. Very much Paul Reubens. So,
yes.
But anyway, you were talking about some of the other animated stuff.
Obviously the Chiodo Brothers animation for Pee-wee's Big Adventure is just so iconic and so great. And I loved Pee-wee's Big Holiday, but that was definitely something that was missing, was that stop motion animation. Yeah. But it's still a lovely movie. And then, he was Locke in Nightmare Before Christmas. He voiced a role in the Teacher's Pet movie, both Smurfs movies, a ton of TV stuff. I mean, it's just incredible. But, what you and I wanted to bring up, obviously, was the initial version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And he was Roger Rabbit. And he was great. He was a great Roger Rabbit.
No, he would have, don't get me wrong, no disrespect to Charles Fleischer, who did a wonderful job in, the finished Robert Zemeckis film. But those tests that folks, you can look at them online now, and more to the point, kind of where Disney was going with this film at that time. Of course, this was before Spielberg was on board. So the plan was basically they were just going to use Disney characters, right? I mean,
and there were a lot more original characters. There was that kind of like detective kind of gruff, who was threatening Eddie and telling him this was his case. And honestly, the thing that was worse about that one that was really bad was that Jessica was I know this is a children's show, but she was a real piece of work. She was a villain, right? Like, she was a manipulator.
That's my understanding, that in this version of and again, this kind of adhere much closer to the original Gary Wolfe book. Disney, I guess, acquired the project while it was still in galleys, and then attempted to, again, this is that weird time when Disney is trying to be ambitious. They really feel, and this is the irony. They're trying to up their game because they feel Steven Spielberg breathing down their neck. The whole notion of he was trying to become the next Walt Disney along with George Lucas, and the family audience was walking away quickly from Disney. So this was, one of the films that they were really hoping would put them back on the map, and they just couldn't get it made. In fact, there's the famous story about didn't they take it to Disney themselves, took it to Zemeckis, and he's like, there's no way you can make this. You're too tired. You're too old. You're too out of touch with, where the audience is. It was only after Eisner came on board that, actually put gas in the tank, that, people like Spielberg and Zemeckis came back to it, though. Just a quick side note here. Isn't there the story about how Zemeckis had so little confidence in Disney that didn't he want Don Bluth to do the animation originally?
Yeah. The Disney didn't do very much of the animation. I mean, there were Disney animators who worked on it, right? Like Andreas was in London, and a couple of other great animators, but Yeah, the version that Paul was going to be in was completely Disney animated, and I don't know if they would have even been able to pull it off. I mean,
no.
You can see the Roger Rabbit. What is the short, Jim? The Olympics or something that you can see the
it's Sports Goofy.
Yes.
No, you're right. There is one shot of the crowd, and again, that the Disney had worked for so long on a Roger Rabbit at that point that it just sort of we got to do something with the character. So seriously, folks, if you go chase down Sports Goofy, which 86, 87, I want to say. And there's one shot there's a rabbit with a bright red nose who's wearing blue pants and suspenders, sort of reacting in a crowd shot. And that's the Disney version of Roger Rabbit. So anyway, we were talking about Paul Reubens, and again, it would have been a brilliant choice, but it didn't happen. But as you mentioned, he's wonderful as Locke in Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. But do you want to talk about your own personal favorite voice that Paul did for television animation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the Batman the Brave and the Bold show was absolutely genius. It totally it's in the same kind of wheelhouse as Teen Titans Go. Don't you love it, Jim? It's so fun.
It has such a great look, and it has such really funny writing, but again, it makes these brilliant choices for voice casting, and in fact, I'm embarrassed. I'm blanking the name. John DiMaggio, who does Bender on Futurama. Didn't he do Aquaman in Brave and the Bold?
Yes, he's fabulous as Aquaman.
Oh no, he's great. But this is the thing; it really made some fun choices, and this is among the really fun choices. Talk about who Paul did on the show.
Well, the setup of the show is that each episode, Batman is paired with another character, and so like Aquaman, like Jim is saying, who's so funny. But so I think Paul was on a couple of times as Batmite, who's just such an absurd, funny character, this like little bat creature from another dimension who just annoys Batman. But his performance, like everything else Paul did, is just so heartfelt, so funny, and so kind of like, he mixes this kind of like childlike wonder with this really kind of profound element, and Batmite is no different. I think it's one of his strongest, performances, and I absolutely adore it. So yeah, this was a tough one for me, Jim.
No. I get that. Though I will say this much: given the body of work that Paul left behind, I mean, he will be entertaining people for eons yet to come. In fact, as soon as we finish up here, I'm going to go chase me down some Batman the Brave and the Bold and spend some time with Batmite. So,
well, it's also very funny to watch those old episodes of Pee-wee's Playhouse and to see how much they got away with. I mean, the double entendres, the innuendo. I mean, people are freaking out over the stupidest stuff today. I mean, they would absolutely burn down CBS if this show was on today. I mean,
you're not wrong. You're not
right?
wrong. Though that said, that what's interesting is that yes, they got a lot away with a lot on the Saturday morning show on CBS. But like I said, folks, if you get a chance, chase down the Showtime thing that they did of the original Pee-wee show, the one they did with the troop from the Groundlings, and that's when they really went over the line. And in fact, I think that's when they found where the line was. You can do that, you can't do that. But,
right. I don't know. Did you see Jake Shears, who formerly was the lead singer of the Scissor Sisters, which is a very gay band, but he put this lovely tribute up on Instagram about how he and Pee-wee would always go to Elvira's show at Knott's Scary Farm and hang out with her and then do all the houses. But Paul was so scared of the houses that he would wait for Elvira and Jake Shears to go through the houses, and he would be like the mom with the bag. And it was just the sweetest tribute, and just spoke to what a gentle soul Paul was.
Oh, no. Totally. And just the number, I mean, Lorraine Newman was talking about, they had been friends for ages, and how, it's like, oh, it's my birthday. It now means it's time to get 20 messages from Paul. Every year, you would get this tidal wave of recognition from Paul. And the interesting thing is all of these people shared that story this week. So there was so many people who valued that Paul Reubens was part of their life, and really going to miss him now. So again, folks, on behalf of Mr. Taylor, to Paul Reubens' extended group of friends and family, we offer our sincerest condolences at this sad time. But anyway, on the other hand, if you need some cheering up, you need some entertainment, may I recommend Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Though this week, you and Charles go a very different way with the show, right?
Well, we have the second part of our Henry Cerny interview, which is really great. He plays Kittredge in the original film as well as in Dead Reckoning Part 1. But we have a little bonus for everybody, which is our Light the Fuse interview with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem director Jeff Rowe, which of course is called Light the Ooze. So yes, and Jim, I encourage you to go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem if it's on your cheapo night at the movies or whatever. Just go. It's so good. We'll talk about it next week. I hope.
Yeah. And in fact, it seems to be off to a great start. Opened in theaters this past Wednesday. Already, as of Thursday, has already sold $15 million worth of tickets. So that's a great start for an opening weekend. So anyway, well, if you're not listening to, when you're done listening to Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, we have a couple of shows here you might want to check out. We got Disney Dish that I do with Len Testa. We had an interesting guest host this week, one Mr. Josh Gad. Let's see, what else? We also have Marvelous Disney, which I do with Aaron Adams, who, by the way, has his own outside podcast that's really well worth checking out. That's 32nd Street, that explores the world of advertising. Brian Gahn and I will be putting together a brand new Looking at Lucasfilm sometime in the next couple of days. Should be out next week. And I think, let's see, beyond that, tell you what, folks, if you could do Drew and I a favor, if you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just the podcast you're listening to right now, Fine Tuning, but also like the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. Also, if you really like what you heard here tonight, if you want to head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be cool. Beyond that, I'm almost afraid to ask Drew, because again, I feel like I'm the only one left in the burning building. But where are you on social media these days? Because I still see you tweeting. In fact,
I'm always. Well, are we tweeting, Jim, or are we Xing? What are we doing these days? I don't even know.
I'm sorry. Just because Elon Musk decided to rebrand doesn't mean I have to.
That's true. That's true.
So.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter or X or whatever. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky, and I am on Threads as Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt. Same handle on every platform. So come find me. Maybe I'm doing something. Maybe I'm not. Who knows?
Okay. Thanks to Nancy. We are also on Threads. Likewise, still on Twitter and Instagram is Jim Hill Media, and also on Facebook is Jim Hill Media News. Beyond that, I don't know. I still haven't found a new home yet, but we'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week, folks. So thanks again for listening, and Mr. Taylor and I will be back again next week. Till then, take care.